111-99 in favor of the Orlando Magic. Unfortunately, the Toronto Raptors come out of their Florida road trip with 2 losses to a team that, let's face it, is not one of the powerhouses of the NBA. They're looking more at the draft than they are the playoffs or the play-in. And it's got Raptors Nation a bit panicked, gentlemen. So let's just talk about it with Sherm Hamilton, Paul Jones. This is the Raptors Today crew talking Raptors brand basketball. And unfortunately, the Raptors have not looked themselves, or they've kind of looked like a team that would be a game under 500 at this point at 13-14. I'll start with you, Jonesy. What's been the biggest issue with this Toronto Raptors squad as it exists right now?
I don't know if you could pick one issue, Akil. There are a bunch of things that kind of snowball.
Give us the list.
And the laundry list. First of all, the shooting. This is a team that turns their defense into offense, and when they are able to get stops, they're not always converting.
Yep.
They're not shooting the ball well, particularly from behind the arc. Injuries have played into that, lineups. And then defensively, I think they need some more consistency. They were good for a half, a quarter, a half against Orlando on Sunday. Second half, Orlando shot 56%. In the Friday game, Orlando was north of 60% for much of the game. I think you've got to do a better job defensively, and this is a team that generally does that. So things are a little out of kilter right now.
It's a tough style of defense to play at a consistent level, though, no?
It is, but if you're going to do it and hang your hat on it, then you need to do it well consistently.
In Sherm's terms, what needs to be done?
I've always been the person that has said everything emanates from the defensive side of the basketball. You can't trust your offense to be your calling card. And I think the Raptors have to get back to, like Jonesy said, being consistent defensively. You admit it's a difficult style of defense to play, but the consistency and effort and consistency and execution might not create all the turnovers, but it'll create being in good positions defensively. It'll help you rebound defensively. And I think they've got to be consistent on that side of the basketball. The shots, I feel, are a factor of when they're playing their brand, those shots are easier to knock down. When they aren't good defensively and another team's putting pressure on them and they're making shots, now those shots that you have to make become more pressured, they become tighter, and they're not as fluid. I think this team has to be more consistent on the defensive end, and that will clean up a lot of the issues that they have from my perspective. And I like the shots they're getting. I think they're getting great looks. They're not making them. That will change. Guys practice enough, you're going to make shots. But defensively, if they can get back to who they were in the past of turning people over, being solid defensively, rebounding and pushing it and creating opportunities, I think they'll find themselves on better footing with more consistency.
Let's face it, one of their defensive stalwarts, OG Anunoby, was out of the lineup yesterday.
Yep, this is his first game of the year.
Also a shot maker, a guy that has shown offense too. So that's a big loss. Then I'm still waiting. I don't know when, but Precious Achiuwa is a guy that I think is very underrated what he brings is sometimes underrated on the defensive end.
Big mobile body.
And can play and guard multiple positions. So, like I said, the lineup has something to do with it as well.
All right, so in this league where three-point shooting is paramount for any team to be successful, we look at the numbers. The Toronto Raptors
don't look at the numbers.
Okay, but if you do, the Toronto Raptors are shooting 28% from three in their last 14 games. And take a look at it. Three-point attempts, they're 18th. So even though they're 18th, which is, middle of the pack, if you are shooting at the bottom of the pack in three-point shooting, that doesn't help you at all with the amount that you're putting up. So let's talk about what this group can do, understanding that three-point shooting is paramount in this league, Sherm. How do you find a spark? Like, I don't even know what to say there. Like, how do you fix a team's three-point shooting? That's really an individual, isn't it?
Well, it is individual thing that becomes a collective issue when it's not happening across the board. And I think first is you got to take the shots that are presented. If there's an issue with them not shooting the ball, turning down shots, to me that's bigger. Right now, I think, as I said earlier, they're getting good shots. They're not making them. That happens, and that can change very quickly. Guys get hot, they start to get a bit more confident in what they're doing, and then the shots start to fall. So that, to me, is a concern, but it's not the greater concern. this has been a better shooting team before. They can make threes. They
This
know
exact
how to
same
shoot.
roster.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they know how to make
Yeah.
threes. So I'm not concerned in the fact that they're going to be this 18th in 3-point field goal attempts and 25th in 3-point makes. I don't see that for the whole season. But they have to find consistency. And yes, guys need to make shots. Guys like Fred, who's been a very good 3-point shooter for this team, he's got to make shots. People have to make shots. That's going to come to me. I'm not concerned. I like the shots they're getting, and as long as they don't turn them down and don't turn it into a bigger issue, I think they'll come out of this.
What can a coach do?
Nothing. Give them the ball and get in the gym. And
Yeah.
look at, like you got these numbers that you look at. The NOAA board at OVO will tell you if you're left, right. I mean, some of that comes because guys are injured.
Yeah.
And when you're injured, Fred talked about it. When you're injured, you make tweaks to your form because of the injury. First things first is get in the gym so when that shot is presented to you, you're confident physically and mentally enough to knock it down. And I think, as Sherm said, some of the other things with the way they play factor into the three-point shooting. This is a team that offensive rebounds the ball at a terrific rate. When's the best time to get a three? Off the offensive rebound in a scramble. You're getting a kick out, a pitch out. That's an open shot. That's a practice shot. Get back to the offensive glass. I thought Orlando did a good job. I mean, give Orlando some credit, too, in the last two games. They did a good job keeping the Raptors off the offensive glass.
A lot of length on that
And
roster.
doing their own work on the offensive glass. And that takes away some of those things. And then, as Sherm said, the mental side of having the pressure to make shots. That, we need this. I saw guys, I wouldn't say regularly pass down shots, but look for a better shot, even though that might have been the best shot at the time. So there's a lot that goes into it. I think this team's going to come out of it. They're too good a three-point shooting team in terms of you look at the individuals not to come out of it. And I think the collective, once that gets going, in terms of the offensive rebounding, the defense, healthy people, healthy bodies, I think it'll come back.
You touched on it, the collective, of course. OG Anunoby missing his very first game of the season, and he's been kind of an all-star for – I'm going to say he's an all-star right now in this league, and he's been an all-star for this Raptors team. Definitely not from three this year, but from basically everywhere else. So he's out, still waiting on Porter, still waiting on Achua. So what is the most important thing missing for this group, knowing that this roster can kind of come out of this, or we expect them to come out of this? What will be that swing state? What's the thing that's going to transition?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you just got to hang in there. Until the cavalry comes back.
There will be a moment where things shift.
There will be. And I don't know if you're a big golfer, Sherm, but I know
I'm
Akil,
a terrible
Akil, I know
bad
Sherm
golfer.
is. I know Sherm is. You watch the major championships, and a guy wins the major at like 7 under. He goes 2 under on the first day. He goes 3 under on the second day. And then on the third day, he goes like 1 over. And you go, what happened? There comes a time when you don't have your best swing. You just fight your way around the course with what you have. And I think the Raptors are in the throes of that right now. Injuries, things out of sync. You just got to put your head down and fight your way through it until you're able to get it back, because you're working on all the stuff that helps you get it back. And that's to me, that's where I feel this team is.
And with all these struggles, you still pick up your head and you look at the standings, and you're not completely out of it. Like most teams are in this situation, East or Western Conference. There isn't a lot of separation, Sherm.
And that's the comfort, when you're talking about you have a 2-3 game winning streak, your fortunes change very significantly in this type of race. So, again, we're talking about a team that understands what it takes to win, and the Raptors at 13-14 still in the play-in position right now. But they're also a team that they had a tough start to last season.
Yeah.
And this group persevered, and they turned it around and became a very good team by the end of the regular season. So I'm not, again, the sky is falling mentality, it doesn't reside with me, because I've seen this team go through things like this. I feel that they have enough experience, they have enough leadership, they have guys who have been there, done that, to kind of help get this thing back on track. But till people are healthy, till you get the roster where you want it to be, they're going to have to gut some things out. You know what I mean?
Does this remind you guys of the Celtics sitting at 13-14 at this exact same time last year?
No.
It
reminds me of the Raptors sitting at 14-17 last year, and then winning 2 out of every 3 games coming home to finish 48-34. that's what it reminds me of, the same kind of start. You're just kind of fighting your way through it, and it looked like it was going to be a better start, and then you drop a couple games in Orlando. You let one go to Atlanta that you probably had in your hands. So it's the kind of give and take of it all, but it's the consistency. There's still 2/3 of the season left to play.
All right, well, a lot of the pressure on the Toronto Raptors, and of course with that comes leadership, and one of those leaders is Fred VanVleet, who spoke with the media post-game.
Yeah, it's a little, no doubt, it's a little gut punch, you know what I mean? Like, it's part of our effort tonight. You know, obviously we have high standards around here, and so, you know, we try to uphold ourselves to those at all times, and, you know, it just wasn't our night tonight, which is why you got to take care of business, you know, on Friday night. So it's unfortunate the way it turned out, but we just got to stay positive, stay together, understand that it's a long season. And you take the positives and you try to grow from that. But got to the line 38 times, didn't make enough threes, and they just, you know, we had some critical breakdowns to give them threes at the wrong parts of the game, especially like late fourth quarter. It's just, you know, it's too late in the game to have those type of breakdowns. So it's hard to win in this league, and, you know, we're learning that. We got some guys that have to learn that, and, you know, we move on.
Start without OG, and then you lose Pascal for a good chunk of the game, 4 minutes into the second. The whole game seemed to turn right there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's our best player. You know, we need him out there. He got a couple cheap ones, and it wasn't his night with the whistle the way it was going. But, you know, we got enough guys to figure it out, and, you know, the rest of us needed to step up. We didn't do that. We had some good performances, but just not enough around the board. And, I mean, it's okay to give Orlando some credit, too. You know, they play really, really well at home. They got a lot of talent over there, and when they compete, they play pretty well. Again, it's not a loss that, you know, you take very lightly, especially, you know, like I said, the standard that we hold ourselves to. But, you know, they play better than us two games in a row, so you got to give them credit.
Nick was saying at practice yesterday that some guys are dealing with some various nicks and cuts and injuries.
Yeah.
And that, the first thing to go is your shooting stroke. I mean, how much of that is behind the fact that you guys are having a hard time putting it in?
Yeah, listen, I mean, sure. Like I said last week, there's a million excuses every night, you know what I mean? And every guy's got whatever they're going through, but nobody cares about that, you know, when it's time to lace them up. So, sure. I'm sure that has something to do with it. You know, if your knee hurt, then your whole body is different. If your back hurt, your whole shooting form is different. So, you know, it's part of the game. It's a bad time for it. We desperately need them. You know, the way the offense is flowing, we need some of those threes to go down, and the other team just gets more and more aggressive, and they load up more and more if you don't make them. And we saw some of that tonight. But, you know, we fought, and just, you know, wasn't good enough. I think we lost it there in the second quarter, and then obviously that stretch there in the fourth to give them separation. We just never closed the gap.
How's your head feeling?
I'm okay. Got dinged up a couple times, but, you know.
Same guy?
I don't know. I didn't. Hey, well, listen. Do we play him again?
Yeah, one more, I think.
I'm just joking. No, there's good guys over there, but yeah, I was happy that I was okay, but definitely took a couple hits for sure.
Was there anything kind of said post game, just in the locker room briefly, kind of to summarize these two losses and how you guys have approached next week?
No, short-term memory. We got to move on and just be better next week. So, again, it's a long season. We all have to be better, starting with myself. Most importantly, myself. I think if I play better in these stretches, we probably win some of these games. And I'm always going to take accountability for that. But we get one on Wednesday, we'll all be in a better mood and try to build on that. So there were some positive things tonight. We just got to take that and see what we can improve going forward.
All right, it's time for the Silver Linings Playbook, and for that we're going to focus on Gary Trent because three-point shooting is paramount right now, and he's a guy who can heat up 24 points against the Orlando Magic, averaging 17 for the year. But do the Raps need to lean on a guy like Gary, find more opportunities for him? He was in the starting lineup, which is a place he's very comfortable in. Is that something they need to look towards? Is Gary a guy who can kind of spark this offense? I know we focus on defense, but we need a spark offensively, especially from beyond the three-point line.
Well, we know Gary can shoot it. We know he can create his own offense. We know all these things about Gary Trent Jr. Without OG Anunoby, he gets back into the starting lineup, and he plays well offensively. And this is a guy who had a tough time for the beginning of this season in terms of being able to be consistent, had some injury, just struggled a little bit. Now he's coming out of that, and he's kind of what we talked to. Things go wrong. Things aren't right, and then guys start to figure it out. And he started to figure it out for himself individually, which is a great thing. And for Gary, he's going to bring it defensively as well. He's going to be in the passing lanes. He's going to be an irritant. He's going to be active. And you think about the first half against Orlando on Sunday, he was able to get a steal. He was able to be that guy who got out in transition and make plays. In an ugly game defensively where it was a terrible field goal percentage for both teams, Gary had impact. Yeah. And I think that's something you need to see. You need to see more of that from Gary, more of that from everybody. But it's good to see him get going offensively and still be that guy defensively.
In a game or at some point in the season when things are rocky, and we've all been there in a game when your team is kind of teetering and the confidence is up and down, there's one dude that's making plays and you're like, man, this guy's balling. Like, come on, I need to get going.
The recently challenged Gary Trent.
And he was for stretches yesterday or on Sunday. For stretches, he was Toronto's best player on the offensive end. And I think you need to lean on that. I don't know if you need to actively go out and just feature Gary. As Sherm said, he'll find he'll get his, but he's a guy that you can definitely lean on and will help carry the team. Like, you think about games when you're down, 10, 12 points and you end up coming back to win the game. There are some shots in the middle of the game, in the body of the game that a guy makes that, man, that's a big shot to keep you in the game. Instead of being down 12 to 14, the lead goes from 12 to 9 because the guy's made a three. I kind of see Gary as that guy, maybe now that he's going and the rest of the team isn't. I think you lean on him a little, but you still need to get the other guys going.
And in a game where you have no OG, Fred really didn't have it going. Pascal's in foul trouble, so he lost his rhythm early in the game. Somebody had to get it
Whose
going.
turn?
Somebody had to step up, and I thought Gary did a good job being that guy in that game against Orlando.
Well, as we continue to search for answers for this Toronto Raptors squad, the man whose responsibility it is to figure things out is Nick Nurse, and we listen to his post-game sound now.
They got a couple little mini runs all revolving around, stringing up 2 or 3 threes in a row, right? And we didn't answer with many, triples back at them again tonight. That's probably it. It started, I thought, again, you're right, we really played tough early and all those. I mean, it's kind of like we probably, I think at one point it was like 9-6. It felt like we played well enough to be up about 16-6, but we just weren't making enough production out of our defense because the defense was as good as it could be, basically. And that's probably, just a microcosm of the game, and then our offense probably in too big a drought to withstand a couple different barrages of threes really was the difference. Yeah, I don't know how many we had offensive rebounds tonight. Yeah, they did a pretty good job both games of keeping us off the glass, and it didn't look like we were threatening very hard most of the time either. Right, so I think they did a good job. That their physicality and their length on the rebounding. So we didn't get, probably didn't get enough. We turned them over 18 times. List is, what's that say, 20 points there. That's probably not enough, right? 23 points. When you're creating that many turnovers, you probably should. Those are 18 chances to go back at them. And getting a point of possession is probably a little bit more than a point of possession is probably not enough. That would have been one way to kind of to make up for some of it. Well, I think that we had some foul trouble, right? I think Pascal picked up an early 2, an early 3, and an early 4 in the first half, right? And that's, again, we're not clicking on all cylinders offensively the way it is, and then one of our best guys picks up 4. I think it affects us. I don't think individually from play to play or anything it affected us that way. But I think when you're in early foul trouble like that, especially with your kind of number one offense creator, makes it tough.
All right, and of course, some sad news on the other end from another member of the NBA family coaching tree, and that is Paul Silas, father of Stephen Silas. A statement made through the Houston Rockets of Stephen Silas, who was absent from his team's last game, that, of course, his father, Paul Silas, had passed away over the weekend. And a legend in his own right, dies at 79. Take a moment to remember Paul Silas and Jonsey. You have some memories?
Yeah, I remember watching Paul Silas as a kid play for the Celtics, and he was this fierce, competitive rebounder. The Celtics had championship teams, and we talk about role players before it was a thing and trendy. Paul Silas was a great rebounder at both ends, scored on the offensive end, and he had kind of this gruff exterior, was a real tough guy. And I remember the first time I met him, I was intimidated. He's like 6'7", burly, stocky, and he turned out to be the most engaging, warm, disarming person that I had ever met at that point from the NBA, and always had a laugh or a smile, full of stories. I actually sat beside him in 2000 during the Vince Carter dunk contest. After interviewing Vince, no more seats on Media Row. They put me in a VIP section, and I sat beside Paul Silas and had a terrific time watching the dunk contest with stories. He was also entertaining Dave Winfield, who was in our section as well, sat there.
Of Blue Jays fame?
Yeah, and it was terrific. And he was a really gentle man that belied his personality on the court. And the other part of it was playing for the Celtics as a black man. I had a lot of respect for everything that was going on in Boston and the way he carried himself and what he did. He wasn't of the stature of Bill Russell in terms of his social activism, but he did it very quietly, and I got a lot of respect. And rest in peace, Paul Silas.
Sherm, what stands out from his career for you?
I mean, obviously, being a black head coach in the NBA, it stands out to me in a big way, and being a really good head coach. And I remember when Jamal McGlure, one of our own, was drafted to Charlotte, and him talking to Paul Silas, and he talks very fondly about Paul Silas. And another guy that we're very familiar with, one of the, best people I know, and Simeon Mars.
Right.
And talking to him about Paul Silas back in the day, they had a lot of great things to say about him. And, it's always difficult when we lose pioneers.
Yeah.
It's no matter if there's a close connection or there's a distant connection, there's a connection. And he's part of the NBA family, and we've all either seen him or interacted with him and understand the value that he brought not only to the NBA but to us as black men who consume the NBA and who are working in this field. It's a sad thing, but we celebrate the beauty of what his life was.
A great ambassador of the game for us, ourselves, and for the NBA. His legacy lives on in his contributions. Of course, his son, a coach in the NBA, and the first head coach for LeBron James, who will go down in NBA history books. So definitely to be remembered in those ways. Now let's switch focus and talk about the MVP race, because that's a hot conversation right now. Things have shifted a bit. Luka Doncic started this season looking like the favorite with some dominant performances. But I'll start with Jonsey. Who are you looking at right now as a lead dog in this MVP ladder race?
I think we are at the point where we have done it to Michael Jordan. We've done it to LeBron James. And now we're doing it to Giannis, where we're taking his greatness for granted.
Okay.
Like we're getting bored with it. He's not my leader because his team is not winning as much as the guy who's on top there, Jason Tatum. As much as Luka's having a terrific year, his team's not winning enough for me. And I refuse to get caught up in sheer numbers. Luka's not as high on my ladder as he is on the NBA ladder, because I don't think his team's winning enough. And I find
But does he have enough help? That's my argument. He's doing a lot with a little.
Does he have enough help, or is he trying to utilize the help to his best ability? Because they've made some recent changes in their lineup and the way that they're playing, and Luka's starting to trust people, and lo and behold, they're starting to win a little bit more. And I would look at one of the other guys on that list, Nikola Jokic, who won 2 MVPs. His team is actually playing better this year.
And he's taking a step back, less shots per game.
Right. And to me, the MVP is, if your team's not winning, if they're not in the top top 2, top 3, you can't be the MVP.
Okay, sure.
To me, my MVP is Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
I mean, Boston's playing great, and he is by far their leader. And
Playing both ends of the court, too.
And Jaylen Brown is excellent as well. But
There's a pecking order.
you've got to respect winning when it comes to the MVP. There's other awards that you don't necessarily have to factor winning in the way you do with an MVP selection. So Luka's great. And Giannis is right behind Jason Tatum in my book. I mean, he's the next in line. But Jason Tatum is having a phenomenal season. His team is winning. He didn't play well his last game, but he's having a phenomenal season. Boston's playing well. They're leading the East. And to me, that is what an MVP is. And that's what Jason Tatum is.
The NBA can alleviate some of the
Don't go with this
controversy
2 awards. Not
if they
2
want.
awards.
2 awards,
Give a most outstanding player.
individually based completely. And then the MVP is to the best player on the best team,
Well, or on a winning team.
on a winning team.
I'm not a fan of that.
Nope. Okay.
Not a fan of
Okay, we got a disagreement on our hands, but right now we got to change focus and talk about the next matchup for the Toronto Raptors, and that is with the 5th place in the Western Conference, Sacramento Kings. Surprise team, light the beam, as they say in Sacktown now. It used to be pure cowbell. Now it's all about the lights. Let's look at this group because coming off a loss against the Knicks, very disappointing for this group, but they've got 2 players, 2 young players. We talked about, the MVP race. There's 2 studs in the MVP race that are pretty young, and of course, Ja Morant and Jason Tatum. But now you look at this young Kings team, and you've got Sabonis, right? And
Fox.
De'Aaron
Fox has been. He's an all-star. Fox has been all-star material this year.
Okay, so let's start with De'Aaron Fox, Sherm, and let's hit some footage and see exactly what the threat is when De'Aaron Fox grabs the ball and goes.
Well, when he grabs the ball and goes, you can just look for that beep beep sound of the road runner because he's so fast. And look, he gets the ball here. He's got a defender in front of him. And look how he just turns him, and before you know it, he's at the rim. He's got that speed. And here you see it. He can play off the ball. So he gets the kick out. He knows that he's in a 2-on-1 situation, fakes that pass to the corner. He's able to knock down the 3. With speed, being able to shoot, you become difficult. And now he goes to a screen and roll with Sabonis. And then watch what he does here. He rejects the screen, the dribble handoff. He pushes away, and now he attacks. And this is a tough basket. He makes that shot, but he's a lefty. That's southpaw action. And here he comes up again. Drew Holiday steps on top. He does the right thing. He pushes a little bit, gets some separation. Now he can knock down the 3. The defense didn't really react to that, but he's a problem. He's quick. He can score. He's shooting the ball better from 3. And now he's a guy who's rebounding, and he's pushing in transition. He's a lot of the reason why Sacramento is doing as well as they're doing right now. Now, their team is playing well, but De'Aaron Fox, he's that straw that stirs everything.
Yeah, they picked a side when they traded Tyrese Halliburton because people were kind of starting to
That's a
question
tough decision.
who was the guy, but they said we're doubling down on De'Aaron Fox and it's paying dividends. Now we got to flip sides.
And they paid him.
And they paid him. You got to pay him. And we're going to go to the other side to who paid you, the son of your former boss in Lithuania, and that's Domantas Sabonis.
They didn't pay me that much.
But let's talk about Domantas Sabonis, Jonesy.
Like his dad, a terrific passer. And it's interesting. Mike Brown, head coach, I'm calling them Golden State Light. They're running a lot of stuff like the Warriors did. There's Sabonis, little high post, elbow, push action, a backdoor cut. Sabonis, again, pick and roll. They said in Indiana how great he was on the pick and roll. Here he is going into the lane, attracting defenders. Harrison Barnes sneaks behind Sabonis with the dump down. He's so good. He sees the floor so well. His decision-making is terrific. Here he is in the post. Again, the lane open. And it's not just the pass, but the timing of the pass to get the dunk for Barnes. So the other thing that's we didn't see a lot of there is Domantas Sabonis is physical.
Oh, he can bang down there.
He is physical. He will go into the low post and put his shoulder in your chest. And if you're not prepared, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to be yelling for air at some point. This guy is tough. He's got a full skill set. He's the quintessential big player in today's evolutionary NBA.
Wednesday night, the Raptors have this Kings team, and we're going to talk about what the Raps, even though the Raps always say it's about them and what they do when they get on the court, there's still things you need to key on. That's why you have advanced scouts. You got to look at what a team does. What is going to be key for this Toronto Raptors team, Jonsey, in getting a dub against a Kings team at home?
I will say the defense. This team is number 6 in defensive rating. The Kings, as I said earlier, they look like Golden State light with a lot of their, action. Sherm highlighted how De'Aaron Fox playing off the ball the same way. As much as Steph had the ball in Golden State, he could also play off it. So I think your defense has to be really, really sound, and you can't turn it over and let them get going in transition.
And I think to the defensive side, you got a defensive rebound and push it. And if you can create some turnovers, play some open court basketball against this team and force them to match up in transition. But, as much as we try to focus on the next opponent, the Raptors have to focus on themselves.
Right now,
and they've got to find that consistency and clean some things up. And if they do, I think they'll present enough challenges for the Sacramento Kings.
All right, so it'll be the 13-14 Toronto Raptors versus the 14-11 Sacramento Kings Wednesday night, 7:30 from the Scotiabank Arena, a.k.a. The Vault. 7:30 tip-off, and you can catch that on the Sportsnet family of networks. That does it for Raptors Today. On behalf of Sherm, Jonsey, myself, Akil, and Jake, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you Thursday.